Hey y'all, in today's video, I am sharing 4 Thanksgiving side dish recipes, all made in the slow cooker. And I know that some people hate intros and just want to get straight into the food. That's completely fine. I will leave timestamps down below in my description box with like each individual recipe. But if you are still with me, I just want to go over quickly a couple of reasons why I chose Crockpot recipes and why I think they are so beneficial for holidays. So number 1, transportation. Transporting food from one house to another. It can get really messy really fast. Anytime I have used like a casserole dish or even like the tinfoil casserole pans, 8 times out of 10, something goes wrong and it puts me in the worst mood. We actually don't have Thanksgiving dinner here at our house. We always go to my in-laws and also my parents. So we do travel for the holidays. It's not far at all, but still, like I said, no matter where you're going, if you put food in your car, things can go downhill quick. So I have never once had problems out of my crock pot. And also, even if it's not plugged in and your lid is on there securely don't sound right. You know what I'm trying to say. But crock pots hold their heat really well. So like I said, if that lid is on there right, it's going to keep your food hot for a long time. And then when you get where you're going, just simply plug it up and put it on that keep warm function. And it is going to be perfection when it's time to dig in. And then my other reason is the most obvious reason, and that is just to free up some oven space. I have never had to do it, so I don't know, but I cannot imagine having to make like 8+ dishes all on one oven. Like that is super overwhelming to me. Not to mention like having to time everything to be done at the same time and hot and nice and fresh at a certain time. Like that's just too much. So I really love the idea of just waking up, throwing some things into a crock pot, scooting it to the side while you're trying to get everything else done. And you know that that one dish is gonna be perfectly ready when it is time. And I'm one of those people who feel like everything that is cooked in a crock pot is just so much better. I don't know what it is. I guess it's the longer cook time and it just has plenty of time to build flavor and just, I love my crock pot. It is probably my most used thing in my kitchen. So yeah, there's my reasons. Highly recommend a crock pot. Now I guess I'll go over the menu of what I made over this past week. So we did green bean casserole, which is something that we had actually never had before. It's not something that my family makes, and oh my goodness, we loved it. I'm so glad that I made it. We also did baked beans, which is something that I love. Unfortunately, I'm the only one that will eat it. In this house, my kids or Josh don't like baked beans, but don't worry, like after I ate my portion, I gave the rest away. I'm not about that waste in life. And then my personal favorite Thanksgiving dish is like sweet potato casserole, candied yams. I don't really know the difference because I basically make them both the same way, but that is my absolute favorite, and this recipe turned out amazing. And then last, but definitely not least, macaroni and cheese. What is any get-together without mac and cheese? And let me tell you guys, I spent so much time like sorting through all kinds of different mac and cheese recipes, trying to find the best one, because although like I have never met a mac and cheese that I haven't liked, they're always good. I'm just always trying to search for the perfect one that's like my go-to and that I make for every get-together. And I honestly believe I have found it. The one that I made was so delicious, and I just hope that if you try it, you think the same. But yeah, everything was a great turnout. They were all new recipes to me, and I'm proud of all of them, and I'm glad to share it with you guys. And I hope that it can maybe take a little bit of weight off your shoulders when trying to pick the perfect recipes for your table. But that's enough rambling. I'm gonna go ahead and get on into the food. But lastly, I do just wanna say happy holidays to all of you guys. I know life is really weird right now, but however you choose to spend Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, I just hope that you can make the best out of it and just stay positive, stay healthy. And here's the hoping that 2021 is gonna be a much better year. But really, at the end of the day, it is what you make it. So let's go ahead and jump on into the delicious food. Okay, so let's get started with a green bean casserole first. So you're going to need 3 cans of green beans. These are just the normal size cans, and you're going to want to drain off all of the liquid. Then you're just going to simply dump those into the bottom of your crock pot. Next, you're going to want to whip out a small mixing bowl, and you're just going to dump in 2 cans of cream of celery. I wanted to add that this is the best time of the year to stock up on Campbell's soups because at least where I live, they are always on sale, and this is the cheapest time of year that you can get them. I can get them as low as 49 cents, and that's a great deal. And then if you are a canned soup hater, that's fine. Just simply make your own for this recipe. Here, I've just added in a 1/2 cup of milk. I'm using 2%, but use, of course, whatever you have or what you prefer. Next, I'm going to add in some Worcestershire sauce. The recipe calls for a 1/2 teaspoon, but I just measure all of this to taste because I know what we like and, you know, what we prefer. So for the seasonings, I'm just adding in some pepper and then some garlic and onion powder. Again, I'm just eyeballing it. Next, I'm just going to whisk all of that together until it looks like this. And then I am just going to pour that all over the top of those green beans. And here you want to be very careful when you stir these because remember, like the green beans are already cooked, so they're super soft and you don't want to end up with a big pile of mush. So just take your time and fold it. Now I'm just popping my lid on and I'm going to cook mine on high for 3 hours. And here's what it looks like after the 3 hours is up. I really recommend the Crockpot liners. They make cleanup so much easier, but I was out. So here I am adding in some of the French's, like crispy fried onions. I'm going to add in about 1 cup and then stir it together, and then I'm going to top it with some more. So if you guys have watched me for a while, y'all know this is a huge deal for me because I'm so anti-onion. I literally avoid recipes that called for this one ingredient. But I do like Funyuns, like the chip, so I figured that I could give these a try. And what do you know? I actually did like them. I love the flavor that they gave and the crunch. So I'm happy that I finally gave those a try. I know it sounds silly, but anyway, so I just let that go on low for like 10 more minutes just to get those incorporated. And here is the finished product. They turned out so creamy and delicious. They weren't like soupy at all. And I'm just so glad I came across this recipe. Next up, we are going to be doing the baked beans. So basically, we're just doctoring up some of the Bush's baked beans. We are going to take these from a 4 to a 10. And this is a larger can. I believe it's 28 ounces. I've added that to the bottom, and now I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. I'm using light, but if you have dark, that's completely fine. Either one will work. I'm going to take that same measuring cup, and we're going to measure out a 1/4 cup of some ketchup. I'm also going to do a 1/4 cup of mustard. I know a lot of people don't like to add mustard to their baked beans, but I personally love the tanginess that it gives and also that nice golden color. So the original recipe called for a real onion to be chopped and thrown in. So of course I replaced that with some onion powder. It also calls for 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, which is a lot. These do have a really garlicky taste. It stands out, which I love. But if that's not your thing, just cut that back. It also calls for 2 tablespoons of molasses. I have this sour gum, I guess is how you'd pronounce it. Basically the same thing, at least to me. So if you spray your measuring spoon with some nonstick cooking spray, that will slide on out a whole lot easier, but I didn't even think of that at the moment. So here I am just trying to get all of that off. As you see, I'm kind of letting it drip off the side. You'll also need some Worcestershire sauce. I did measure it out this time. You need at least a tablespoon. And then last but definitely not least, you will need some cooked bacon. So I did fry up 6 slices. I let those get nice and crispy just the way we like it. And then I've added that in. And as you can see, I'm kind of letting some of that bacon grease get in there as well because, you know, that's just extra flavor. So I'm just going to stir all of that together, of course. I'm going to really make sure I break up that brown sugar. We don't want no clumps. And then I'm just going to pop my lid on and I let that cook on high for 3 hours. And here they are after that time was up. I'm going to take my spoon and really get around the edges and on the bottom and everything pulled away really nicely. And just watch and look at how thick this gets. When I am eating baked beans, this is the exact consistency that I want. I do not like them runny. And y'all, I'm telling y'all, this recipe was spot on. Honestly, the best that I have made so far. And it's one of those recipes that I would be proud to write down and pass on to my kids when they are older. And just look at this close up. Yes. And now on to my favorite, the sweet potato casserole. You will need 3.5 pounds of sweet potatoes. So that one bag is 3 pounds. And then I have that one little loner to the side to make up for it. So I'm just going to peel those and chop those. now we are going to get started on the glaze. So you'll need a half a cup of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice, 1 tablespoon of some pure vanilla extract, followed by 1 tablespoon of water. You'll also need a teaspoon of salt, and then we are going to add in 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And I am just going to whisk that together, get everything broken up and incorporated, and then once it looks kind of like chocolate syrup, it is ready to be drizzled all over the top of those potatoes. And I thought when looking at this that it wasn't going to work out. I didn't think it was going to have enough glaze and that maybe I should double it, but as the potatoes cook down, it all works out, trust me. So now I'm just going to toss those around, try to get everything coated, and then my lid's going on, and I'm going to cook that on high for 3 hours. So here they are. I checked them with a fork to make sure that they were tender enough, and they were. They're cooked perfectly, and all that glaze kind of fell down to the bottom. So here I am just, getting everything coated and nice and sticky. I think they look perfect. And then lastly, I am just adding some of the little mini marshmallows, as little or as many as you want. And then I'm just going to let that go on low for like 5 to 7 minutes until it gets nice and melty. And then at this point, you could top the casserole with some chopped pecans, but not everyone likes that, so I just decided to do it to like each individual serving before we go to eat it. But how pretty is this? I think that it just looks so good, and it really was. This was an amazing recipe that I would recommend. I don't think that you'll be disappointed in it. And even Josh, who does not like sweet potatoes, really enjoyed this, so that's saying something. Lastly, let's move on to the macaroni and cheese. So there is 2 tablespoons of butter in the crock pot. I've tossed in 8 ounces of some cooked and drained elbow macaroni noodles that I have cooked to al dente. I am just drizzling that with some olive oil. I used a lot less than what the recipe called for because I just didn't think it needed that much. As you can see, I'm just tossing that around, trying to get that butter melted. Then I'm going to add in 1 12-ounce can of evaporated milk, followed by 1 cup of 2% milk, or you could use whole. And then to the most important part, the cheeses. So I'm using some sharp cheddar. I did shred that myself for maximum meltage. That does equal up to 2 cups. And then Velveeta. I know you either love it or you hate it, but I am a Velveeta fan. I feel like a true and good macaroni and cheese recipe needs Velveeta. So you do need 1 cup of that cubed up, and then I am just giving that a quick toss. And then the recipe, the only seasoning that it called for was some salt. So I decided to use some Lawry's seasoned salt because I absolutely love the flavor of that, and it works so perfectly in macaroni and cheese. And of course I had to add in my black pepper, but I'm just going to give that a final toss, and then the lid is going to go on. It's going to cook on low, and the recipe said for 2 hours, but of course everyone's Crockpot is different, and after 1 hour I checked it and it was ready. The cheese was all melted and it was just perfect. Here it is. As you can see, it's so nice and creamy. I am so glad that I have finally found my go-to Crockpot mac and cheese. But that is going to wrap up this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching.